All right, and good evening and welcome to another Digital Solutions webinar. It was changed the name this week from ASBAS, Australian Small Business Advisory Services, just to straight Digital Solutions. So this is a Digital Solutions webinar, and I think this is probably the first, given it only changed today. And this is sponsored by Business Station. It's funded by the federal government, and in a conjunction with Regional Development Australia. So thank you to all of those folks for making this happen. My name is Stewart Fleming. I am a leadership coach. I have many of my own businesses that I run, but I keep the saw sharp by sharing information with a lot of other businesses and then gathering from them what I can to improve my own businesses. So tonight we're going to be talking about perfect planning and forging your own destiny. If at any time you can't hear me, please let me know. In the chat window, you can jump in there and leave questions. Of course, if you're playing along at home and you didn't manage to plan well enough to be here tonight, then you can't ask questions. So, but for the rest of us, look, thank you so much for being here tonight. My goal is to give you back double the time you spend with me. You spend an hour with me tonight. I can guarantee the things that I give you tonight will get you back at least an extra hour on top of the hour you've spent. So it is important, however, that you have a pen and paper handy. And even if you're watching along at home, have a pen and paper handy, not because I'm going to talk fast, though I'm probably going to do that anyway, but because what I want you to do is take down the bits of information, the ideas, the aha moments that work for you. So jot down the thoughts that come to you, the things that you can see that you can improve, and that may form good questions, but also really good practices going forward. It is super important because if you've been on any of the other webinars with me, I've run about 12 of these things. And I do say that a webinar with me is like drinking from the fire hydrant. There's an awful lot of information coming at you. The trick is just to take small sips. And those small sips are you taking notes about what we cover tonight. I will try to stick to the script, but I can't promise anything. If something occurs or a good question comes up, we're deviating off the script. So hang on, strap in, it's going to be fun, and let's get going. So let's look at some expectations from tonight. And I do say that if you want to make God laugh, make a plan. But tonight, I actually have a plan on how to plan, the planning seminar that I'm running for planners. Did I use plan enough time in that sentence? Probably. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to cover the benefits of perfect planning and then what it is, just so that we're working on the same language. Because then when we get to the systems, you'll understand that we're all on the same page. Then we're going to talk about the building blocks for a perfect plan, some top tools, which is always the favorite part. And because I'm a coach, there's going to be homework. I want you to absolutely get back 2 hours, not just this week, but every single week from here going forward. So the homework is designed to make sure that you get the most out of tonight. All right, let's just jump straight in. If you find there are questions, I'll be watching the chat window pretty ferociously. There's also the Q&A window, which I'll bring up now and actually keep that open as well. So there's plenty of ways for you to interact, but make sure you're taking down your own notes. All right, so what are the benefits from a really great plan? Well, firstly, better time management. If you knew things were coming up and you had already estimated how long things were going to take, you can shuffle things around in your day so that time management works for you rather than against you. So what I would mean by that are things along the lines of pretty much everybody does their best work in the morning when the willpower is fresh. So willpower is a resource that is diminished during the day and replenished with sleep. So you have the most amount of willpower when you wake up in the morning. Now, that's fully awake, because if you try to make a decision while you're half asleep, trying to get out of bed and it's raining, but you know you want to go for a run, you've probably not got the greatest amount of willpower. Yeah, I'm talking about you. But that's that aside, willpower is much higher predominantly in people in the morning. And so scheduling your tasks so that those hard things come in the morning will allow you to get those out of the way. It'll help you to organize your thinking. If you are scrambling to decide what to do next, a perfect plan will allow you to follow the plan. And so you have freed up your brain capacity to think about more important things. A perfect plan is about organizing your thinking as much as it is about better time management. It'll help you identify problems in advance. You might say that you've got 26 tasks to do this week, and all of them are going to take about half an hour, but one of the tasks takes 4 hours. So identifying where that might be and what that might do if there is a disaster in the middle of your day. So identifying problems in advance is not just talking about the things that do happen, but the things that might happen. If you plan 40 hours of your week, you're not accounting for the things that may happen. So you have to allow for that. Otherwise, it's not a perfect plan. It'll allow you to achieve more and be more productive. And those are two actually separate things. Achieving more in your day and being more productive. So achieving more is about what you're doing, and being more productive is about doing more of it. And I'd like you to do both. I'm greedy that way. It will help you develop mindfulness. And you'll see how that will work in a second. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, it will reduce your stress and give you a sense of peace. Now, I coach, we've worked out 130 different businesses at the moment concurrently. I think 138, I think the team worked out, as well as running many of my own businesses. And yet I still have peace. That's because the planning really, really works. And I want to give that to you tonight. Any questions on any of that, please just type it into the chat window. Failing questions, I'll just keep moving. So what is a perfect plan? Well, firstly, it's a plan that will always work. So how is that possible? How is it possible, given life, that the plan will always work? Well, we build life as a variable into the plan. Stuff isn't going to go exactly as planned. So build it into the plan, work around it. You may not know exactly what it is, but there's absolutely a way that you can work it out what it on average is and get super, super close to that. It's a plan that delivers the results you want. Now, notice I don't say that it delivers a specific result. It delivers the results that you want. In coaching, certainly at the very highest level of coaching, the only outcome is the outcome the client wants. So I'm not in this for whatever I think you want. I'm in it for what you want. So deliver the results that you actually want. If you want to push your business and grow very quickly, fantastic, we can make that happen. But if you want more lifestyle, that is also a fantastic result. Let's go for that. If you want to make more profit in a smaller amount of time, let's do that. So understand the kind of results that you're looking to get from a perfect plan. And it should actually deliver it on time. We talk about SMART goals, and T being the time. Make sure that your perfect plan should deliver on time. And it should be self-replicating. So what I mean by that is your plan should already have built into it when you're going to do your next plan. If you're not planning to plan, you're planning to fail. It kind of sounded good in my head. I'm not sure it sounds great in real life. What do you think? But it should be self-replicating, okay? Your plan should actually, you should actually plan to plan as part of the process. And if your plan doesn't work, and a lot of the time there'll be bits and pieces that can be tweaked, then you tweak your plan. But if it's part of the process, you already have it in your mind that you are going to be tweaking the plan. All right, any questions on any of that? We are sort of flying through this tonight. Right, there we go. So let's have a look at the systems at work. Now that we've got a definition around perfect planning, and I'm hoping that having described it now, it is actually something that you want. Actually, give me a yes. If this is something that you actually want, give me a yes to say that, to let me know. Just type it into the chat window, just to let me know that we are definitely on the right path. Excellent. Oh, while we're there, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is you could barely spell planning, and 10 is you are the planning hero and you should actually be running this seminar. Where would you say your planning skills are right now on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 is terrible, 10 is amazing. Just so I kind of know how deep to go. All right, so we've got sort of 5s to 8s. Yeah, all right. So you're not complete novices, but you want to really get those numbers up there. So I want to see if I can get you to a 9 tonight. Now, what I would say is that when I coach people to numbers, most will find that they can get close to a 9, but the 10 requires proof. And that means that I won't be until 10 until I've proved that it works for me. And that's fine. So let's see how we go towards the end of the night. Let's have a look at the systems at work. Firstly, you have to understand where you are right now. Understand the now. So what are the things that are going on right now? Where are you? Before you plan any journey, you have to start somewhere and you have to understand where you are. And if you don't, it's worth taking the time to understand that. So if you're starting a particular project, say there's a project job that you want to take on and you don't know exactly where you're at to start with, launching straight into a task is probably not your best bet. It's probably best to work out, and if you're working with other people, to find out exactly where it is right now so you can measure how big the problem is. Planning vision. So once you understand the now, the next step is, where do you want to go? So planning your vision of how you're going to get this done. And I'm going to get very specific about that when we get into the tools. But for now, just have a think about how do you plan the vision and then map out the work in between those 2 points. So where you are now and where you need to get to, and this applies to everything from relationships to planning websites, to serving customers, to creating new products, to building a business. Everything starts with where you are now, where are you trying to get to, and what are the steps in between that you can break down into tasks to get done. Part of planning should be planning for some play. How are you going to have fun with some of this stuff? Don't leave it to chance. Play is so crazy important that if you just leave it to chance, there's a good chance it won't happen. So don't leave it to chance. Plan how you're going to play. So if you're saying you're going to build a website, work out what you can do inside that task to have some fun with it. What are you going to do that's not work, that's going to be play? In a weekly plan, make sure you've got space to have a bit of a play, to experiment, to go beyond, to tease, to test. It's really important that you give yourself a window. And if at the moment, I can see you saying, well, Stu, how much should I have in my weekly calendar to play? Try an hour. If that's not enough, add an hour. And if that's not enough, the next week, add another hour. But plan for it. See what works for you. But I can tell you, if you add play into your plan, your week will be better, which means your work will be better. Plan for failure. So when I teach people how to do perfect planning, as I am doing tonight, one of the things we plan for is overflow. As I said at the start, planning will not go according to plan. So we plan around that as well. When I first started weekly planning, I would allow all day Friday for overflow because I was terrible at guessing how long things was going to take. So if one particular job took longer than I expected, rather than bump all of my jobs and create this huge caterpillar effect of all things moving down the line, what I would do is just allocate that job into the overflow time. So I'm guessing there's probably a question from you, how much overflow time do I need? Well, it comes down to your reactivity quotient. So looking at last week and all the things that happened last week, how much of it could have been predicted at the start of the week? So I'll say that again. Looking at last week, how much could have been predicted in what happened last week at the start of the week? And is that typical of your week? Because you just had a massively crazy week, but that's the first time you've had one in 3 months, and maybe that's not typical. So I had a client whose reactivity quotient was something like 85%. She had no clue what her week was going to hold. And she was still trying to plan for 50% of her time. So there was this large overlap between what the fires she needed to put out, which was 85% of the time, and her booking of scheduled meetings and tasks into 50%. So what we did was we reduced the amount of time that she was allowed to book and plan. If you're finding that you're fighting that many fires, you need to allow time for fires. Otherwise, your plan won't work and you'll be eternally frustrated. Does that make sense to you guys? Can you see how setting aside an overflow slot based on your own work would actually be really beneficial? So what I recommend is not to actually just take up the next amount of time, but to actually move things and get used to moving things into your overflow slot. And if it's something that has external stakeholders, just let them know. Hey, I'm not going to get this done. It's going to take a lot longer than I thought, but I have allocated some time on Friday to make sure it gets finished for you. It's just an idea. And again, as I say, take down the ideas that you think are going to work for you and then use them. Finally, plan what you're going to do when you succeed. One of the first things I would hope that you would do when you succeed is make sure you replicate that particular plan, because it worked. Woohoo! Any kind of success you want to double down on. You want to say, right, that worked really well. Why did it work? The question how it worked, and then what can you take away from that so that the next one has an even better chance of success? We all know that sometimes successes happen partly because of good planning, but partly because of luck. Great, what was a part of luck, and how could I make all of my tasks from now on have a little bit of that luck in them? And if you think about it that way, I guarantee you'll come up with some ideas. So understanding now where we are, where we're going, how are we going to get there? Are we going to have some fun along the way? What will happen when things go wrong? And of course, what will happen when things go right? And these are the systems that I'm going to show you how to use in the building blocks for a perfect plan. Again, if there are any questions, please feel free to write them in, but I'm going to keep going just so that we move on. And of course, planning for planning. All right, let's have a look at some building blocks. Firstly, know yourself. And I guess, this can't be understated. I'm actually writing a book on knowing yourself right now because I feel it underpins everything that we do. Knowing yourself, are you a procrastinator? Fantastic. Are you a perfectionist? Do you get a push from being held accountable to other people? What is it that drives you? I don't need to know. You need to know. You need to understand the little pivots that help you get stuff done and then use them to your advantage. So in days gone by, I would, if I told someone else I was going to do something, then I felt obliged to do it because I'd already said it was going to happen. And so I got used to using that, and I would just tell everybody it was going to happen. Not just one person, I just shout it to everybody I met. Now I feel obliged to do it. Now I don't need that anymore. But if that's what you are, and that's what works for you right now, then that's what you should do. If you're a perfectionist, and look, feel free, when you type in all panelists, only I get to see it. So if there is something that you know about yourself and you want me to address, please put it in there. So if you're a perfectionist, then maybe you need to set stronger boundaries about what is okay, what is enough. I do remember when I first was working with one of my master coaches, and they said that a perfectionist is someone without boundaries. It just hasn't put the right amount of boundaries in them. And when you think about it, not knowing when to stop is actually a lack of boundaries. So when is good enough enough? Decide on that and move forward. I tend to work on the minimum viable product. So for me, it's the smallest amount that will satisfy 80 to 90% of the needs straight away. So know yourself. That's going to be really, 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 really important. How do you operate without sleep? Well, if you're like every single person, that's terrible. So make sure you get enough sleep. How much is enough sleep for you? What do you get angry at? What do you get happy at? Knowing all this stuff is going to be really useful when you build that plan. Know the work. So estimating how long things take is super, super important. And you're going to be, if you've not done it before, you're probably going to be terrible at it, but that's okay. Guess anyway. It is important to make the guess so that you can improve the guess over time and review it. I think this will take 15 minutes. It actually took 2.5 hours. Fantastic. Next time I'll split the difference because I'll be slightly better, and maybe I'll make it an hour. Oh, next time it takes an hour and a half. Fantastic. Split the difference. I'll make it an hour 15. So guessing is really, really important. You have to give it a go because you get smarter by doing it. I had a client in LA, personal injury lawyer, and I asked them, what would be ideal in their practice, and he said that, if a client came in, if we could tell how the case was going to go, whether this was going to be a profitable client or not, that would just change everything. And I said, great. So let's start guessing. So when you see a client, after you've had no more than about 2 minutes of conversation, turn the folder over and write down what you think the settlement is going to be. Now, they started doing that as a guess, and it took about 2 years, but they're now really accurate. And it's all sorts of things that if you sat down and tried to work out, you probably couldn't do it. But they've done it by seeing patterns over time. And by continually guessing, they're now able to go from, I think it was $125,000 a year to $1.2 million last year. So that's over a 2-year period, because they're so good at guessing what the next client is. And it's still a guess, 100%. But it's a good guess, and allows them to decide what cases they want to take and what they want to encourage them to find another solicitor down the road. So know your work, know the chunks. This is a kind of fun one. So knowing the chunks, what I'm talking about there is knowing how to see things in perspective and how to use that to your advantage. Everything that I do, if there's any piece of knowledge that I have, I don't particularly like knowledge for knowledge's sake, but if I can make it useful, that's fantastic. So being able to see things in different perspective, that's kind of cool. But doing it for your own benefit, now we've got a bit of a tool we can play with. This is cool. So chunks can go up or down. And what I mean by that is see big tasks or see small tasks. So you might have a particular job that you want to do that is, say you want to build a website and you've got no clue where to start. It's a big chunk. So I don't even know where to start. So what we would do with that, because it's too big, is chunk it down. We chunk it down into different parts. I need to, if I haven't got a logo, I need to put a logo on and I need to pick the name. Then I need to find a way to build it and pick a tool. Then I need to do, see, all small tasks, and each one becomes easier. But sometimes you don't get stuff done because the task is too small. It's insignificant to you. And so that's where chunking up can be useful. The other way that chunking up is useful is when you are in overwhelm because of the sheer amount of tasks. I actually have another client at TAFE who has a to-do list that never gets under about 280 items. If you had a to-do list of 280 items, how would you feel? It's overwhelming just thinking about it. It's pages and pages of stuff. So we chunk up. We group large amounts of the tasks into things that are conceivable to the mind, that are easy to hold in your brain. It does not change the work, and neither does chunking down. Chunking down and chunking up are just perception tools. But if I said you had 280 things to do, or I said you had 280 things to do divided into 7 little areas, you have 7 tasks. How different does that feel in your head? 280, 7. Same amount of work. And we're not deceiving ourselves that somehow the 7 is some magically easier number, but it's way easier to comprehend in your head, in which case you're going to switch tasks less, in which case there's less overhead to that. It actually does make it a smidgen easier, but it makes it a lot easier to conceive and hold in your head. So know the chunks, know how to use these will be a great way to be able to get through big tasks and small tasks quickly. Know when enough is enough. Know what the results are. In any particular coaching session I have with a client one-on-one, we start at a set number, between 1 and 10, and we have a goal. Where would we be on the scale from 1 to 10 at the end of this? And we go for it. In terms of confidence in marketing, a 3 out of 10. Great. What do you want to be? 7. Fantastic. What will that look like? That particular question, what will that look like, means that when we get there, I know what the results are intended to be. And you have to ask that of yourself. What will the results be when you get there? What does it look like? And this applies not just to small tasks, but to massive, big, long plans. Want to be a millionaire? Fantastic. What does that look like? What will that give you? What will you do? What did you sacrifice to get here? So know what the results are, know what it feels like. But also know the risks. You're going to have to give some stuff up. Are you prepared for that? Are you going to have to take some risks? Now, for risks, there are only 3 ways of dealing with a risk. You can accept it. It's an acceptable risk. You can avoid it. Juggling chainsaws while they're running is an unacceptable risk. Given how clumsy I am, I'm going to avoid it and not do it all. Or you can mitigate it. I'm going to take out insurance knowing that I'm probably going to cut one of my arms off. It's someone else's problem now. So this applies to any kind of risk in your business. There are only ever 3 strategies. You can avoid, you can accept, or you can mitigate. And the biggest one for mitigation is always insurance. How can you make this someone else's problem? Finally, know what the rewards are. You know what it's like. You've said the results. You've said this is what it's going to look like when I get there. But how are you going to? What are the rewards of doing it? I talk to so many different business owners, and quite often I'll find when I first start working with a business owner, they will sacrifice their own wage to keep the staff on, and that's fine, short term. But what happens when you're not getting rewarded for the effort that you're putting in? Very quickly, you're going to get resentful. You're going to push back. And that's not benefit. There's no benefit in that, not to the staff, not to you, not to your family. So know the rewards. Make sure you are adequately rewarded. And it doesn't have to be cash, but there has to be reward for your effort. If there are any questions on the building blocks, please put them up. Otherwise, you know the drill. And if you're playing along at home, I hope you are taking notes. Watching this as attractive as I am is probably not going to get you the benefit that you want. What you need to do is you need to take notes and think about how you're going to apply it in your business. So let's talk about some top tools for perfect planning. Number 1 on my list for getting stuff done is Pomo To Do. It is an app that sits on your phone. It can sit on your computer. There is a website for it. And It's based around the Pomodoro technique. So the Pomodoro technique is the idea that you do 25 minutes of a task and take 5 minutes break. So it's a short, focused 25 minutes, get it done, take a 5-minute break doing anything else. You can go for a walk, make a cup of coffee, visit the toilet, send some emails, whatever it is, but it's not that task. Now, the pure Pomodoro technique says that if you finish a job within the 25 minutes, that you spend the remaining time working out how to make it better. This is really, 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 really important because it has built into it quality assurance and improvement. If you write a particular email and it's a bit of a long-winded thing that you have to write, and then you're just about to hit send and you realize you've still got 5 minutes left, then you go through it, look for mistakes. What else could you say? How could you change it? Could you make it a template for use later on? What would you do to make it a template? Each one of those adds something to the business that wasn't there before. So again, just going through the pure Pomodoro technique, if you say you have a job that is, say, 45 minutes long, you spend 25 minutes, then you spend 5 minutes sharpening the saw. What I mean by that is take a break, let your brain rest, do something else, stretch. And not just your body, stretch your mind. So you then come back to the task and you've still got 20 minutes left to do. So you do the 20 minutes and which leaves 5 minutes, correction, improvement. What didn't be? Now, hand on heart, I will tell you, I do not follow the pure Pomodoro technique all the time. But on the times that I do, I can tell you, it absolutely, each time I do it, improves my business. And so I balance how many times I do that based on how pushed I am to get stuff done. I'd much rather get stuff done and have it be improved than just plow through tasks with no improvement. But for me, because there's a lot on, I tend to balance that. So that's the Pomodoro technique. And then Pomo To Do, as I said, that's the app that I use. I've been using it for many, many years now. I still use it every single day. I drop in there all of the little things that I just don't want to forget. Big tasks have their own place, but all the small things, Pomo To Do. If my wife says, right, can you make sure you blah, 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 within 10 minutes, what I actually heard was blah, blah, blah. But if in that moment I pull out my phone and I write it into Pomo To Do, she knows it's going to happen and I know it's going to happen because I go to it a lot. It's a way of backing yourself up. I also find it was really useful when I first started doing lots of planning, in that I could have it by my phone by the bed, and if I found that I was, there was something in my brain that wasn't turning off, I would just put it into Pomo To Do, knowing that I would look at it the next morning. So it's safe to let it there. I don't have to think about it anymore. It's there, and I will look at it in the morning. If you do find things, so just going off reservation for a second, if you do find that you are awake at night thinking about something, you need to, whether it's Pomo To Do or something else, but you need to get it out of your brain and write it down. If it's bugging you, and given it's keeping you awake, I would suggest it is, you need to write it down. And if this is your first time doing this, then make a little ritual of saying, I'm putting this down for now. And be very intent on actually putting it down. Use the action. The action will help tell your gut brain that it's okay to put this down for now. Well, I'm definitely going off reservation at this point. So the enteric nervous system is where all your anxiety lives. That's your gut brain. And your gut brain does not have language, so you can't talk yourself out of it, but you can use actions and feelings to get the message through. So that action of putting it down, physically putting it down and closing the book and hearing it slam, that's a feeling that it's safe and it's locked away in there, and that'll help your gut brain relax. If you find that you still can't relax and you're still thinking about it, you haven't written it down in enough detail, or you haven't done this enough and your gut brain doesn't trust that you're going to pick this up and look at it tomorrow. You have to be honest with yourself and do that. That's why for me, Pomo to do works so well, because I absolutely look at it every day. And therefore my gut brain is okay putting stuff down, knowing that I'm going to pick it up. It does sound like there's a little bit of war going on in me, doesn't it? But there is in all of us. So Pomo to do, let's come back to where I was supposed to be going. Pomo to do is a fantastic app, and it will allow you to keep a track of what's going on. It also then sends you a weekly report of how many Pomo to do's, Pomodoros you've actually completed in a week. And I can tell you, every single time I see a bigger number come through, I just go, yeah, absolutely, that was a great week. Now, sometimes I don't see a big number come through because I'm absolutely back-to-back in coaching and I don't use it. I feel like I have had a busy week, but not a productive week. And I would prefer, where I can, to have productive weeks. Hopefully that makes sense. The next tool I use a lot of is Trello. Trello is a very simple project management tool. I find it as a focus to do, Pomodoro timer and to-do list. Is that the one? Yes. So Pomo to do. I'll just put it in the chat window there. To do. In fact, I can actually quickly look it up. Now the important thing that I actually missed a piece. Pomo to do, when you start it, it starts ticking. And it's ticking down, and that's another second that you're not going to get back. And while I'm there, I'll throw in Trello as well for you. So every tick is another tick, and what will happen is it will help you stay on target. Now, I will turn the ticking down if I find I'm on target. If I find that my brain, for some reason, is flipping all over the place, I will turn the ticking up. I'll make it annoying, because that's what works for me. It is that's another second I'm not getting back. Come on, get this done, move on. So it's an artificial, if you like, emergency. It's a self-imposed emergency. And I like that because I get to control it. So the next tool, and I put a link there in the chat, is to Trello. So I have, I don't know, over 100 Trello boards. And each board is a project, or is it a task list, or it could be a magazine. So I use it to pull together lots of ideas from different things, and I use it in all different ways. So if I'm doing an event, so one of my boards is the President's Dinner. I have things like, I have my lists are to do, doing, done, and then I have an ideas list, I have an invited list, and I have accepted coming list, and then I've got a sponsors list. And so what I'll do is I will go through and move cards from so each has, you have cards and you have lists, and you can move your cards from list to list, and then you can put times against them, and you can put labels. But one of the biggest things you can do is you can share it with your team. And so I share my Trello boards with different members of my team. So different members have access to different things. So if it's something that my wife and I are working on, then she'll be invited into that particular Trello board. So I just find it a really good way of keeping a track of a whole lot of things. Let's keep going. Weekly planning. This is the big one. ClickUp I like okay, but again, I go to other, I'm so used to ingrained in using the tools that I use that I'm kind of stuck on those now for now. And that's a good point. It really is. Use the tools that work for you. If you find that ClickUp works for you and you've got yourself used to it, keep using it. I would still say, explore around, but don't spend an awful lot of time. If you've got one place to get stuff done, then use that and keep using it. And this is what I was saying about knowing yourself. Knowing those things that work for you is super, super important. And it's not that they work for you all the time or are necessary all the time. but they're there when you need them. When the wheels start to fall off, you've got a go-to strategy. So I will do more focused POMO to-dos as I get more pressured. I actually put more effort into focus as I get more pressured, because that fights that, I need to switch between multiple tasks. Don't, no. Focus on this task and get it done really well. Weekly planning. All right, so best practice for weekly planning. And if you take nothing away from tonight, but one thing, take this. This is the one. Weekly planning. Best practice is you do it on a Sunday and you review it on a Thursday morning. You start with, and this is the way I do it, and most of the people I teach have come to this conclusion as well. You start by putting in all of the non-negotiables, all of the meetings. Just copy them into a separate calendar, and I mean this by hand. Get yourself a sheet of paper or something that's got the week on it, and then copy your calendar into it by hand, because what you're doing is you're actually looking at every single thing and saying, right, yes, I know that that's there. Yes, I know that that's there. The next part, the next thing you need to put in is some important non-urgents. Now, what I mean by important non-urgent, it's the stuff that will change your business, but nobody cares but you. So maybe you need to write a new sales process. Don't. Nobody cares. You do. Super important, but it's not urgent. What about you need to hook up a new payment gateway? Again, your clients are using the current one and you're getting charged a bit more, but it's important, but it's not urgent. If you could add one important non-urgent task every week for 52 weeks, your business will 100% be different. Each one of those moves your business forward. So why weekly planning on a Sunday? And I have had people try to do it on a Friday, and that's fine. But that hasn't been as successful. That's why best practice is to do a Sunday. The idea is the person that you want to take guidance through for the whole week is yourself. The best person to tell you how to plan or what to do through the week is you, but not just you. It's the calm, relaxed version of you. It is not the flustered Monday morning, oh my God, look at what's coming. No, not that version. Don't listen to that guy or girl. You want the calm version to tell you. And so giving yourself a gift of some Sunday planning, minimum of an hour to start with. I take sometimes as much as 2. This is a gift that you're going to give to yourself. Plan out your week. Give yourself some of those important non-urgents. And the reason we review on a Thursday morning is so that you've still got 2 full days to try and get stuff done. Have a look at those important non-urgents. Which ones haven't you done? And which ones do you absolutely want to move things around and make sure that they happen? The next thing you're going to put into your plan is your overflow time. Now, we don't have a best practice on that. Well, we do have 2 best practices. People fall into 2 camps. One is a Wednesday, Friday overflow, and then there's just the pure Friday overflows. Depends on what your expectation is from your clients or the people you're dealing with. And remember, we said how to work that out is by looking at last week and seeing how predictable the week is. How much was unpredictable? How long did that take? And is that fairly standard? And if this all sounds really hard, start with 4 hours. I don't know. Line in the sand, right? Maybe right. It's probably not. But it's a good place to start. 4 hours will give you 4 hours that gives you the capacity to start to see how this works. I can guarantee that feeling when things don't go right and you already know that you're going to handle it well, there's no stress then, isn't there? So the calm version of yourself to plan out, firstly, the non-negotiables. Secondly, the important non-urgents. Thirdly, overflow time. I would suggest that you also, at the start of that process, review last week. Did it work? Do I need more overflow time? There are a whole range of different things that you can add into this weekly planning process. Over time, you'll just add more stuff. You don't change. There's no, oh, I have to do 27 different things. No, you have to do your weekly planning. That's the thing. If you do that well, you'll add bits and pieces over time to that. That will allow you to achieve far more than you ever thought possible. Built into that is some mindfulness. By looking at the tasks that you have through the week and the tasks that you had for last week, there's time for contemplation. Honestly, if I miss it, I feel like I'm being cheated. It is a gift. Absolutely, I see it as a gift. And so I want that to be a gift that you give to yourself. So that's weekly planning. It will absolutely change what you do. Now, having talked about weekly planning, let's talk about the weekly review. So that is just that idea that if there's some tasks that 2 weeks in a row are still on your to-do list, why is it? Is it because they're not important? Is it because they're too big? Is it because you don't really want them? Be honest with yourself. Why are they still there? I had a crazy week. Yeah, but is that enough? Maybe it is. My week last week, because of small business month and small business week, was absolutely mental. So if I hadn't done something, it was probably because the week was actually too crazy. But if you're honest with yourself in this weekly review, again, it will pay back dividends. Monthly and yearly planning. Now, I do monthly planning, but it's not a huge thing. I do yearly planning, and that is much bigger. So if the calm, quiet Sunday version of yourself is the best person to tell you what to do through the week, it's Holiday Stu that should be telling you how to spend the entire year. That absolutely relaxed version is the person that I follow for the whole year. And I don't question it after that. Each week, I will look at what relaxed Stu, super relaxed Stu, Holiday Stu said that we were going to go for goals. And I don't question it because I'm not in the right mind space to do so. I've already made those decisions and I'm going to stick with them. Now, that's not to say that if it was obviously the wrong choice, I wouldn't change it, of course. But for the most part, I just follow it, which means I don't have to keep thinking these big, involved thoughts. I can just go, great, what is important but non-urgent that is going to help me get from here to there? What could I add this week that is going to help me towards becoming that, whatever that big target, what that big goal is? So yearly planning on holidays, give yourself a day. Just meditate on how the year's gone and what do you want. And if you did get that, what would that mean? So again, this is a thing that we do as coaches when we work with clients. Certainly all the good coaches I know do. It's that you say, I want to have X. Well, fantastic. Let's assume you've got X. What do you want now? What will that give you? Where are you going to go from there? And if there's a good, solid response to that, well, great. If there's not, well, maybe you need to think about it. Because maybe X is not where you want to go. Maybe you were going to X because that was going to get you Y and then Z. But actually what you really want is Z. So can we just skip X and Y and go straight to Z? So understanding what you want from the whole year is that question that you ask that super calm holiday version of yourself. And you can see how doing that with a sense of mindfulness, with a sense of peace, knowing yourself, That then allows you each week to just move towards that plan. Don't re-guess. And each week you write the plan and then you follow day by day. What does the plan, what does Sunday Stu tell me to do? Great, I'm doing that. And it's not always right, but there's overflow for when it's not. Weekly planning, weekly review, monthly and yearly planning. They all add up to get you what you want. This is the real key to getting what you want and getting that extra hour back. If you spend an hour this Sunday, when you feel that you're nicely relaxed, planning your week, I can guarantee you, you will get more than that hour back in that week. The trick with getting lots of stuff done is to try and make decisions ahead of time so that you do not find yourself making decisions in the middle of the week. You want to make decisions ahead of time wherever possible. And I cover that in Fail Fast or Fold in the webinar about failure. The idea that make your decisions up front. So I had a client who is a runner and was training and was struggling to get out of bed some mornings. Oh, you know, I could hear it raining and, you know, my ankle was a little bit stiff, so I didn't go. Fantastic. So how do we get around that? Well, let's make a decision that we don't turn away because of rain unless we're standing on the street. So you have to get up, get dressed, and go and stand on the street before you can decide if it's raining hard enough to stop. Now, he came up with that, not me. And I said, what about this injury idea? How sore do you have to be before you don't go? He said, well, actually, in most cases, honestly, I would try to run to the end of the street. You know, ideal solution, I would run to the end of the street. If the injury starts to feel worse, then I turn around. But if it was just cold and needed to be warmed up, then I keep going. Great. So rain, you make a decision on the street when you've dressed so that that's not an excuse. And injuries, you make a decision at the end of the street. So we've created rules, and rules allow us to operate without decisions, which means the best person has already made the rule, so you follow the rule. And this is what weekly planning is about. It's the best person to make the plan for you has already done it, so just follow what they say, because they'll get better at it. I'm not saying your plan will be perfect first time round, but if you let that calm version of yourself be the one that do it, you are definitely going to improve. All right, let's talk about some homework because we're running towards time now. Look at me finishing almost right on time. You guys have been super quiet. I've had a couple of comments, but pretty much I hope you're still there and you haven't run off to make some plans. But what I would say is give yourself 30 minutes tonight. Write down what you want to achieve for the rest of the week. See how this works for you. Break down planning tasks, including fact-finding. So if your tasks are big, sometimes the first part of the task is to find more information about the task. Then call that a task. Schedule some time, including overflows. How much overflow time are you going to need? And when are you going to do it? If you are looking for extra help, certainly check out what other ASBAS advisors are available to you. There is a lot available, and this program runs till the end of June, and I've been told that there's a good chance it'll run on till September. But take advantage of it. You know, these are some of the best resources in the business that are here and being funded to pay to help you grow your business. If you are taking notes, go back and review your notes. Prioritize what can you get done. This has been another Business Solutions, Small Business Advisory Service, Digital Solutions Now webinar brought to you by Business Station, Regional Development Australia, and the Australian Government Initiative. And I'll just